People in Jordan have taken to the streets today. Crowds in the capital, Amman, demanded political reform and a constitutional monarchy. The government has made several concessions in the last month, but many say that they don't go far enough. Let's return now to Libya. And AlJazeera has a dedicated website for receiving video from those who are closest to what's happening on the ground. We're going to show you a report now from Tarek Bazli that uses some of that video and shows oil facilities burning in the country's east.
A Zuatina oil facility 130 kilometres south of Benghazi on fire after fighting. This video sent directly to AlJazeera was shot on Thursday. The port is a vital piece of the country's oil infrastructure. It's now under the control of government forces after they apparently tricked guards into letting them into the facility.
We came to the gate of the facility. We told them we were pro-Gaddafi. They invited us in, and then after we sat with them, we mugged them. We used our knives and managed to capture these weapons. They're not Libyans. Some of them are from Chad. All of them are from outside Libya. We've seen their IDs. They're not Libyan.
In nearby Brega, another key oil export terminal, fighting has continued in and around the facility. This vehicle reportedly used by mercenaries guarding the gates to the terminal. There are reports that many of the wounded and killed have been hit with high-caliber anti-aircraft ammunition.
The number of the people that are killed were more than the number of the guys that reached the hospital injured, and this do not happen. Usually have the number of the guys injured is much more than the guys killed.
There are estimates 80% of Libya's oil fields are now under the control of anti-government forces. They risk their lives to take them and say they would do so again to bring down the government and secure the nation's future. Tarek Bazli, AlJazeera.
All right, let's move away from the Middle East and look at what else is happening in the world. Islanders in Taiwan say that they feel threatened by China's plan to boost defense spending by some 13%. Beijing insists that it's not a threat to anyone, but Taiwanese are calling on the United States to sell them more weapons. Japan and the Philippines are among other countries alarmed by Chinese warships near their coasts. Well, China's military plans must be rubber-stamped by the annual National People's Congress, which begins on Saturday. China's leaders will also announce other spending plans for the next 5 years. Our Beijing correspondent Melissa Chan has more.
It's one of the few times of the year when China's leaders make major announcements. The National People's Congress, ostensibly the country's legislative body, but with much of the decision-making made well beforehand. This year, the government's preoccupation will be the economy. Chinese Premier Wen Jiabao has said he would like to see China limit its annual GDP growth to 7%. Given the soaring real estate prices, the government has promised 36 million affordable homes to be built over the next 5 years. Personal income tax will also see a change, with the premier promising it will benefit medium and low-income brackets. It's clear the government is concerned not just with China's growing economy, but with how the money is distributed.
It's a shift from a focus on quantity to quality. And then whether that has to do with the environment or geographic distribution of development or income distribution among classes.
Inflation is the other big problem here, particularly with food prices, giving people a reason to grumble about the government every day.
It would use all the mechanisms at its disposal, interest rates, reserve requirements, even the exchange rate to fight inflation.
So on Saturday, when Premier Wen Jiabao takes the podium, it will be to assure the public the government has this under control.
This year, the word to watch for will be happy. Already, we're seeing it in state media, a happy China and happy Chinese. It's a government promising more than just the basics to the people, more than prosperity, but also well-being. Melissa Chan, AlJazeera, Beijing.
In northwestern Pakistan, 9 people have been killed in a bomb attack on a mosque. 30 others are reported to have been wounded in the blast in Nowshera district. The explosion happened just after Friday prayers as food was being distributed to the poor. Also in Pakistan, mourners have gathered for the funeral of the former minorities minister Shahbaz Bhatti. Security was tight around Islamabad's main church for the funeral service. but he was shot dead on Wednesday. He'd been calling for reforms to Pakistan's controversial blasphemy law. Côte d'Ivoire's UN representative says that the world body is overstretched and can't provide security for all of the country's civilians. Troops loyal to President Laurent Gbagbo shot dead 6 women in a northern district of Abidjan during a rally in support of Alassane Ouattara on Thursday. The UN says that the country's crisis must be given as much attention as the unrest in Libya. Now, Indonesia is recognized as having one of the more open societies in Southeast Asia. Just 13 years after mass protests there helped to bring down President Suharto. He'd ruled for 32 years with the backing of the military. Analysts say that Indonesia made a success of its revolution by reaching out to all groups, including Islamists. Step Varsen reports.
Democracy, Indonesian style. Protest every day, like this one, against corruption. Still rampant, despite the revolution 13 years ago. Fahri Hamza was one of the students who led the protest against Suharto in 1998. Thousands of protesters had occupied the parliament building, demanding the dictator quit. After weeks of heated protests in which more than 1,000 people died, Suharto resigned.
This was the place where we celebrated. As soon as Suharto stepped down, everyone jumped in the fountain and started to have a party for the whole day.
Indonesia became the world's 3rd largest democracy, and the former activist became part of it as a member of parliament for Indonesia's most prominent Islamic party, the Prosperous Justice Party, affiliated with Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood. The party abandoning its call for an Islamic state and Sharia law.
The Islamic Brotherhood should not keep fighting the government, but it should help build the country, and it should make itself electable to the people.
Now the Prosperous Justice Party is a modern party, with hip-hop at the National Congress and 4 ministers in the government. Still, many Indonesians remain suspicious of their motives, as more areas of the country adopt Sharia-based laws.
Yes, the Islamists can bring in their own political agenda, but people can have their own say as well. They can challenge it, they can discuss it, as long as you have a free press and a fair check and balance system in the government. So you have the full assurance that the end result is not that scary.
It's one of the keys to the Indonesian success story. This ally of brotherhood in Egypt has joined the democratic process. As the largest Muslim country in the world, Indonesia is proud to be an example where Islam and democracy go hand in hand. But recent religious violence shows that even after escaping dictatorship, democracy will still stay a serious work in progress that needs decisive leadership.
The recent murder of 3 members of Ahmadiyya shocked many Indonesians who felt their country was going back to the dark days of 1998. But despite these serious setbacks, Indonesia has changed for good.